Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. As you can see on the screen, it comes from the beautiful city of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Now, it may not be beautiful to producer Matt, Auburn alum, Auburn diehard. He's given me I think they were thumbs down on the, off air. They could have just been two middle fingers. I don't really know, but it's okay. We got to talk about Alabama. It's okay. We'll be okay, producer Matt. You'll survive. But anyway, all right. So Alabama, right? So want to talk about Kalen Deboer, but I want to talk kind of holistically because something happened this week that was interesting. And I don't talk a ton of recruiting on this show from the college football perspective because college football and college basketball are so different. College basketball, one player can change everything, right? A Cooper Flagg commits to Duke, it changes the whole trajectory of their season. And RJ Davis announces he's returning. It changes the whole trajectory to North Carolina season. Hunter Dickinson commits out of the portal. It changes the whole trajectory of the season. Not really like that in football. Even when you get a five-star kid, I mean, look at Arch Manning, one of the most hyped quarterbacks that we've seen. Hasn't played a meaningful snap heading into year 2 and probably won't, if all things go well, play a meaningful snap until year 3. Even the good ones, Caleb Williams, didn't start. So the point I'm trying to make, college football recruiting is more about the totality of players that you sign, not any individual one guy. But I bring it up because I saw something this week that I thought was interesting. Alabama got a commitment from a offensive tackle out of the beautiful state of California named Jackson Lloyd, 6'7", 290 pounds. Really good player. I'm not going to evaluate him here. Again, that's not really my strength. But this was a guy that had offers from Ohio State, from Auburn, from Florida, from all of the big programs in college football. Well, I bring it up because Jackson Lloyd was just another recruit in what is quickly becoming a really good class for Alabama. They had an insane May. They had an insane June. And now we're looking up at the recruiting rankings. And here's what you need to know about Alabama. They have the number 3 recruiting class in the country behind only Ohio State and Notre Dame. Notre Dame, by the way, has taken a ton of players. So the per player rating is much lower at Notre Dame. So essentially outside of Ohio State, Alabama has the number 2 class in the country. The number 1 class in the SEC. By the way, they have a huge recruiting weekend coming up. But I just bring it up to say one quick thing. It is that for all the people that said that Kalen Deboer had no chance at Alabama, how is he going to recruit in the SEC? I'm here to say, so far, so good. And oh, by the way, I understand because we're going to get the Georgia and Tennessee fans and it's June, it doesn't matter. Let's see what happens on National Signing Day. And I get it. But what I would also say is, I think Kalen Deboer is kind of proving that he's going to be okay in the SEC. Now, first of all, let me say this. I think even before this recruiting run that now has them number 3 in the country, number 1 in the SEC, I thought that whole narrative was nonsense. First of all, the idea that he can't recruit at an elite level, he never really had the chance. Remember, this was a guy that basically did it at the lower levels. Started in the NAIA, we know that, came up as a coordinator in a bunch of different stops, goes to Indiana as a coordinator, goes to Fresno State, then goes to Washington. This guy's only coached 2 years of Power 5, now Power 4 football. So the idea that he can't do it, can he not do it? Or did he just not have the opportunity to do it? Because he only signed, 2 classes at Washington. The first one's kind of a throwaway class when he took over. And so he signed 1 full class at Washington. So it's not like this guy's been at the Power 5 for 10 years and never signed a top 30 class. He's been at the Power 5 for 2 years. First class is a throwaway. And his first class at Washington, wasn't great, but would have been okay, would have been fine. And it would have been even better this past year coming off a national championship. So just because he didn't sign an elite class in 2023 in his only full recruiting class at Washington, by the way, I want to look it up to make sure that I have it right. Let's pull up the 2023 recruiting rankings really quick. He did sign the number 26 class. So it's not great. But for Washington, it's not terrible. And that was the only class that he signed in the power conference levels. Again, if he had been there 10 years, that's a different conversation. Beyond that, though, beyond the fact that it's a stupid narrative, I just never believed it. First of all, you know what the most impressive thing that Kalen Deboer has done since he got to Alabama? It's not the 2025 class. It's walking into that locker room after Nick Saban left. He had 85 guys that could have gone anywhere else. And he basically, the final tally is, as of right now, basically lost like one marquee player, right? Caden Proctor leaves but comes back. Julian Sayin only leaves because he brings in his own quarterback. So Caden Proctor was their starting right tackle. Julian Sayin was a 5-star quarterback who left because Kalen DeBoer brought in his own quarterback. So yeah, you don't want to lose Caleb Downs. I get it. But think about all the guys that decided they are going to stay. That was his biggest recruiting win, but I just never bought this notion that he couldn't do it. You know why? And I've said this, my buddy Ryan Fowler, I go on with him every week on Tide 100.9, is that basically I never doubted Kalen DeBoer because smart people who have had success at every step of the way, they figure it out. And if they don't have a great skill set, they hire people who do, right? And I've used this example before. I think I'm pretty good. You put a mic in front of me. I'm not great every show, but I'm pretty good at talking about whatever the big stories are, being interesting, whatever. What I'm not great at doing is creating great graphics, great videos, great YouTube shorts, great Instagram reels, whatever. That's why we brought on producer Matt. I know what my weaknesses are. And so Kalen DeBoer, I never worried about it because he's smart enough to know, hey, if recruiting in the South is not my strength, let me go find some people that know what the heck they're doing. And so if you remember, when he took the Alabama job, who was the only other person that was on the plane with him outside of his family? It was Courtney Morgan, a guy named Courtney Morgan, who's his general manager, player personnel guy. In other words, he said, I'll figure out the offensive coordinator later, the defensive coordinator later, the special teams coordinator later. I need to make sure my player personnel guy is coming with me because this guy helped me build a national champion runner-up at Washington. And oh, by the way, he was at Michigan the year before. And then shortly after that, they make more hires to the player personnel staff. We talked about this months ago. The guy, Aaron Hodges, he's a player personnel guy. Everywhere he goes, they sign the top class in school history. He was at Purdue. They signed the best class they ever signed. Kansas, I think it was TCU, not Kansas State. TCU, best class they've ever signed. And so this is what Kalen DeBoer is going to do. Now, I understand a couple things. One, it's early. We're not going to oversell it. We're not going to celebrate it as if he's the greatest recruiter that's ever lived and there's never going to be a drop-off without Nick Saban. Nick Saban's probably the greatest recruiter who ever did live, and so there's going to be a natural drop-off. Two, other schools are going to make their moves. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, they're going to end National Signing Day ahead of Georgia. No, Georgia's awesome. Kirby Smart's awesome. Miami's really good with Mario Cristobal. Whoever, fill in the blank, is really like LSU is going to come on strong. We know how this works. So I'm not going to sit here and lie and pretend that, oh, it's over. Another 20 years. But at the same time, we can only judge the show tonight based on what we know in this moment. And what we know in this moment is that Kalen DeBoer has the best class in the SEC, one of the best classes in the country. And I don't think he's slowing down anytime soon. By the way, also worth noting, as good as it's been, we might have to do an update on Monday's show because Alabama has a monster weekend visitor list coming in. By the way, I'm sure you saw this would have been another topic if we had had time, but USC lost 2 5-star defensive line commitments in the last 72 hours. How about this? One of them, a kid by the name of Justice Terry from Georgia, the number 1 ranked defensive lineman in America, according to On3, decommits from USC and is visiting Alabama this weekend. Now, we're not a recruiting show. I'm not going to claim I have insight. It seems like Georgia is probably the favorite, but I only bring it up to say, you know what that is? That is Kalen DeBoer having smart people on his staff that know the landscape, know, hey, this kid's about to decommit. Let's make sure that we get this kid to campus as soon as possible. So this Kalen DeBoer recruiting run isn't going to slow down anytime soon.